Hi there. I have been talking lately, focusing on what I call PB&A quilts. PB&A quilts are pieced blocks and applique. I use this technique quite a bit in my quilt design and I like to use it to make the kind of quilt that I want to make the look that I want. Most of the quilts that I have talked about before have a simple background and then the applique is just splashed randomly on top. Today I have a couple of examples of applique that is a separate block. So these are pieced blocks and applique blocks, and they're put together in one quilt. They're still piece blocks and applique blocks. I think this is an example. This is called Purple Mist, and as you notice, it has piece blocks. That's these triangle blocks here, and then it has applique blocks. These are English paper pieced applique. I like in my spare time to make English paper pieced blocks like this, and usually I put them on a small wall quilt like this and mail them to people who are having some serious problem or something that's happened in their life, and I can fold these up and stick them in the mail. I put a nice label on the back, and it's a good surprise for somebody that's hurting for some reason. So, oftentimes in my spare time watching TV, I will make these, and I just have a whole bag of them, and when I get too many, then I need another place to put them besides just on my flower hugs. In 2016, when I made this quilt, I thought, okay, I will do a quilt that has pieced blocks and then some spaces which are applique. So that's how this quilt came to be. It's not hard. These pieced blocks are, I think they're called birds in the air, and I made several of them at a time. I think I even may have used a special ruler. Here's the pattern for it. I used an Omnigrid 96 ruler or any half square triangle ruler. That way, if you use that kind of ruler, you can cut several at once. I think it's great fun. It's a good way to use both techniques in a quilt. In the pattern, there is another quilt that you can make bigger, because of course you can make this as big as you want just by adding blocks. And I'm going to show you the other quilt in just a minute too. But these applique blocks are applied however you'd like to do it. You can hand applique them. I stitched around with just a straight machine stitch, I think. And most of the time now I stitch them with a buttonhole stitch or blanket stitch around. This is one example. I want to show you a couple more. In this Purple Mist pattern, at the end of the pattern, there is a quilt shown that is using the same birds in the air block, but it doesn't use the hexie flower. It uses I think it's called a chrysanthemum English paper pieced type thing. And here is the that birds in the air block, and then this chrysanthemum flower. I had that I did with English paper piecing with freezer paper, and did it quite a while ago. I forget when I made this, but this may be a tad bit bigger block here. I'm not sure. But anyway, it makes a nice size quilt. The quilter did a marvelous job. This quilt was quilted by Kathy Franks. And it's one of my favorites. And we use it quite a bit. But I think just the quilting, the color, the grays, the dark grays, it's just a very big favorite of mine. But it's another pieced block. You have pieced blocks, and you have some blocks that have applique in them. So consider that when you're trying to, well, if you're thinking about making a pieced block and applique block. I have one more that's a pieced block with applique, and I'm going to show you that one next. Back in the day when I was doing English paper piecing using the freezer paper, I was making these kind of blocks in my spare time. These, I think this pattern may be called a jewel pattern, and you use freezer paper and make, I don't know, however many of these to make the flower. It looks like 6. And then I added some greens to be leaves. But since I was doing them in my free time, I would make a bunch of flowers, and I thought, I'll make a bunch of flowers, and then I will find I will think up a pieced quilt and make it, and then I will put these on it just randomly. Well, I don't know how many quilts I made. I made one, what was it called? Golden Anniversary. I made another, which was a blue quilt, and that had lovely blues and grays. I probably made 3 or 4 different quilts, and I got them all pieced together, and I thought, oh, this is too much. I just like the piecing. So I let them go. And finally, I decided with this thing that if I made a quilt which had some plain blocks, some nice large plain blocks, I could applique them on. So this is Grandmother's Jewels. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns of pieced blocks, and I used yellow as sort of the little square blocks that are in here. And then between these columns there is I think this might be about the same size, or could be a little bit wider, but these are all plain blocks, different colors background, but they're plain blocks that allowed me to applique on these flowered jewel things. Now I think when I made it in sections like I do my pieced block and applique. I think right here is probably about the middle, and so I did 1, 2, 3, 4 maybe in one section. I can't really point it out, but would think of this in quadrants, 4 quadrants or so. And so I could take this, I'm looking to see if I hand appliqued this. I guess I did. That must have been when I did hand applique. But then it was easier to take this to my lab and hand applique these parts on. If you have just a quarter, you can do that. And then you can sew this part together, and all you have to do is applique a few things over the main quarter seams. But I really liked it when I got it done. I thought it helps to, when you're piecing these piece block and applique, it helps to piece them into sections first. It also for me, I had to make 3 or 4 different quilts before I found the one that I liked that went with all of these little flowers. I still have a couple left over. But now I really like it, and I think it worked well to use these kind of colors, to use empty blocks to put the piecing on, or to put the applique on. So Grandmother's Jewels, let me see, who quilted Grandmother's Jewels? Oh, Cheryl Stewart. This was done in 2012, and it's still one of my faves also, just because it's bright and it's cheerful, and it, I guess I hand appliqued it, so yes, I can see a little bit. I did hand applique. I don't do that anymore, so it's kind of nice to see. So there's 3 examples of piece block and applique. They're very fun to do, and I think it's a good way to make what you want, design what you want to make, and have it be just what you like. Thanks a lot.